I'll just go ahead and introduce myself. I'm Summer Jones. I work on our business development team. And throughout this entire webinar, if you have any questions at all, just feel free to go ahead and drop them in the chat and we will get them answered. And if we can't answer them during this webinar, we'll do our best to reach out to you after the webinar. So guys, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourselves and kind of what we'll be talking about today.
Awesome. Thank you, Summer. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining the webinar. My name is Maggie Hartledge. I am the National Program Manager for ACDI in our Business Development Division. And I will be doing the first half of the presentation related to ACDI's services and how we as an organization are approaching the enterprise space this year. Chris, Roth, you want to introduce yourselves?
Sure. My name is Rafael Junta. I am the technical trainer here at ACDI. So I make sure that everybody is well aware of all the products that we have and knows how to use them. So hopefully we're going to introduce you to some new solutions and concepts here today.
And I am Chris Stewart. I'm one of the solutions architects here at ACDI. Glad to be here today. I'm just going to help out everybody.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. And like they all said, we are going to be talking about a brief overview of enterprise, but we will be getting into some technical stuff as well. So hopefully you brought your techie with you. And if not, go ahead and quickly send them the link so they can hop on this webinar or take some really good notes for them. So we'll go ahead and get started.
Awesome. So I will go ahead and go through the agenda briefly for you guys. And I think Summer's already said this a couple of times. Don't forget to use the chat. We definitely want this to continue to be interactive. So any questions that you have or anything we need to pause on, just let us know and she will alert us. We've got some questions. So first we're going to sort of set the stage on ACDI's focus in enterprise and sort of the overall landscape for our market in the enterprise space and why professional services are so important when calling on enterprise class customers. We'll go over an overview of the pre and post teams that make up the professional services division here at ACDI and make sure you're aware of the resources that are available to you in both of those divisions. Then I will be introducing a new concept that we have recently launched internally. So this is an opportunity for you to get a teaser to our Concierge Services portfolio that we will be targeting enterprise customers with, and defining, and inside of the concierge, we're going to define better what a paid POC versus a trial is, sort of a new way of looking at our POC experience. We'll talk through that. And I'm going to pass it over to Chris and Roth to go over high availability. The reason why we chose high availability is because we find that this is a very, very important topic in enterprise customers, and we tend to get a lot of questions about what does HA or redundancy mean inside of a pay-per-cut MF customer, for example. So we thought we'd take a minute to dive deeper into that. Okay. So first and foremost, as I mentioned, we wanted to take this opportunity to sort of let you guys know as ACDI why we're focusing on enterprise and sort of our ways of looking at it. So we decided probably mid-year last year that we wanted to sort of develop a team to go after these enterprise customers. But not only that, but make sure that we had a portfolio and offering for our partners, like those of you who are on the phone, that you can take out to the field that will be beneficial. And so, like I said, we just launched this. And one of the things we've done is we've gone through a lot of research, read a lot of articles related to professional services and enterprise, and I've found very similar trends across a lot of the articles that we've read. One of the main reasons why these customers in enterprise are so quick to spend money on professional services for enterprises because a lot of times whatever type of software they're investing in is mission critical. So it's very important that they do proper testing, but they also have a fast time to market and that the product is providing exactly what they need to be successful and to maximize the value of the solution. And then they're also looking for a way to have continuous expert support inside of their account and really understand what the account offers them, okay? I mean, what the service offers them and the software offers them. So, sorry, I'm having a screen issue, Summer. Hold on one second. Keeps logging me out.
You are all good.
I'm sorry, y'all. So that was one of the reasons why it was really important to us. Now I can't see the WebEx at all.
Technology is only good whenever it works, right?
We're good. We're good. My God. So in reading a lot of these articles, we also found in the IDC report and the Kuroka report that not only are these enterprise accounts willing to pay for services to make sure that the software is delivered correctly, but they also are looking and in need of print management solutions more than ever due to the hybrid work environment and the shift in work from home. And so when you combine these two trends and industry statistics, you find that if you bring proper services to the print management space, I think we can elevate our offering. I think a lot of you on the phone probably know that paper cut can be a very simplistic product to install. And so what we found is when we really dive into these larger global, more complex infrastructures, paper cut may be more complex, or there may be a way that we can better utilize paper cut in their environment by doing more intense scoping. So by combining all of that, we've decided to put together that end result, which is the concierge offering that we'll talk about here in a few. But before we move on to that, I just wanted to take a moment for those of you who may not be as familiar with ACDI Services Department, is to reintroduce you to both of our services organization. We have a pre-division and a post-division. So we'll start off by going over the pre-sales division. So Chris, who is on the webinar right now, is actually in this division. You'll see his picture here on the screen. I would imagine that a lot of the partners that are on the call today have interacted with this particular division of ACDI quite often. What we do is we have a regional SA, Solutions Architect, for each region across the United States. And these guys work in tandem with our sales groups in each region. And they assist with all things related to pre-sales. As you see here, they've got a 66% trials lead to sale ratio, which is pretty powerful. 97 years of certified experience, over 70 technical certifications. They've closed over 2,200 trials to date, and over 300 reps have been trained. So we also recently have been doing a deeper dive into tracking their statistics and metrics. And I think it's kind of cool to share the amount of volume and customers that these guys are touching. So again, this is the pre-sales division. Some of the day-to-day things that these guys may assist with would be anything related to trials, scoping, demos, training, anything like that that is pre a PO, right? Any type of engagement at the dealer level that is typically prior to a PO. Okay, then we'll go into the post-sales division. So here is a picture that we recently took of some of our key players back in the post-sales division. So this is everyone related to after a PO is brought in. So once ACDI receives a purchase order, this is the team that engages on a ticket. And so that could be anything from our project coordinators who coordinate all of the install services. You've also got your professional service engineers, which are called PSEs, who would assist in an install. We have technical trainers, which Rolf is the head of that portion of the organization. Solutions architects are also back there. You've got management, but all of these people work together to ensure that not only you have a successful install, but then all the way post to the fact that if once your software is up and running, that you are properly supported. So we also have our entire team that handles tickets back there. The next slide kind of goes over some of these details. But again, the post-sales is really that project management and installation services that's critical to the install. Okay. So I just want to take a pause there, go over that. I think we kind of touched on both of those bullet points there, Summer. But essentially, this whole concept that we're getting ready to go over, the concierge that I mentioned, sort of came from the fact that we have two really strong divisions at ACDI that are pre and post. And what we have found over the years is that when we're involved in a more complex sales cycle or more complex infrastructure needs, we find that it's more necessary to bridge the gap between pre and post and develop a solution that we can pass on to the end user and to the partner that is more seamless. And so the first thing that we're trying to achieve in these concierge offering is to offer a portfolio of services for these larger, more technically complex organizations that we can offer regardless of size. It's more about what the outcome is. The second goal we wanted to achieve in creating this portfolio was to offer these different levels of services that are consistent with ACDI's mentality to meet our partners where they are. We actually had a lot of internal, I don't want to say arguments, they were heated discussions on the definition of enterprise. And what I wanted to pause there is we surveyed the field. We talked to partners, we talked to OEMs, even end users, is what defines an enterprise customer when we were thinking to develop the concierge portfolio. And what we landed on is we want you guys to make that decision. We want you to decide what customers you can bring this portfolio to, and we're going to allow you to define enterprise. Now, in structuring this concept, we definitely thought about the definition of enterprise and what those larger customers might need or more complex customers might need. But the end result that we have come up with is something that you could offer to a customer that has 1,000 MFDs, or a customer that maybe has 100 but's global and they have multiple sites, or they're looking for hosting, or they need high availability, right? And they're looking for a more complex proof of concept. You may find that this portfolio could fit into all different customers. And again, we landed there because we wanted to meet our customers where they are and continue with that mentality and allow you guys to make those decisions. And then the third goal that we were trying to achieve relates to the scoping and install services being tailored to the end user's infrastructure and deployment needs. You know, I mentioned a few minutes ago, we all know how easy pay per cut is to install in most cases, but I think if we get down in the trenches on a pre-scoping engagement, not only may we find that there's more complexity in the deployment of pay per cut, but second to that, we may find that the customer from this process and experience may, like I said in that first slide, maximize their acquisition and get everything they possibly can out of the software because they have a better understanding of it in the end. Okay, so this is that was sort of the why we decided to design this. And now we'll go into what exactly it is. So like I mentioned before, we've got Concierge Services. Go ahead on to the next one. Sorry, I didn't realize we're done the bullet. Okay. So the Concierge Services, as I mentioned, is made up of 3 parts. And we're going to allow you guys to pick and choose these parts. So the first is going to be the Concierge M&S, which we're allowing for you guys to select a line item for maintenance and support that will grant you 24/7 support. Some of you may have seen we designed this very loosely end of last year and put it out to the channel, but didn't put a ton of marketing around it. So this program will allow us to market this a little bit better. And we put some SLA requirements around it and more formalized it. So your RSMs can give you more information around this. But again, that's one line item that you can choose. We decided to make that a part of the offering because I think 9 times out of 10, when we get the request for 24/7, it's in these enterprise class customers. So it only made sense to focus on those. The second part to this is going to be your concierge pre-sale services. So a lot of what we're going to talk about today is defining the difference between a proof of concept and a trial. Probably most of you on the phone have done a trial with ACDI and our pre-sales guys like Chris. But today we're going to define it a little bit better on what moving forward will define a trial versus a POC or proof of concept. So the big component here is on the pre-sales side of the business. So the SA teams will continue to be involved in proof of concepts. But the big thing is we're going to bridge the gap between pre and post. And I'll show you the workflow diagram around that here in just a moment. But just like what you're kind of used to for trials and pre-sales, we'll be doing, your diagrams, your POC assistance, but some key changes will be related to statement of work and infrastructure suggestions and diagrams. And again, I've got some visuals here in just a moment for that. Then the third offering or line item inside of the concierge portfolio is the concierge post-sales services, which will be a percentage of licensing related to post-sale services. So you essentially can buy all 3 of these as a bundle, and there will be a discount granted to the 24/7, or you could buy just pre, but you're not going to be able to buy post and not pre, just due to the fact that we're going to have a ton of work inside the pre-sales. I'm not going to get into pricing today. I would urge that you reach out to your RSM to do a deep dive of this portfolio. But our goal today was to float the concept to the channel and make sure that you guys were aware this is coming. Like I said, we just launched it internally last week, knowing that we were going to tease it on the webinar today. So just follow up with your internal ACDI team to go deeper. Okay, so we'll go ahead on to the next slide, Summer. All right, so like I said, one of the big components here when we're thinking about changing our mindset from trial to POC is just to ensure that our partners understand the difference between a trial and a POC. So quickly on the screen, I went back and looked at documentation around what is included in a trial. I recently took out the word free because technically we do charge for trials, but if you wanted me to sub in the word cheap or inexpensive, I'm happy to. I think that what we have found in doing trials, guys, and I think probably a lot of you on the phone have done one with us, where clearly documented here, it says we do 1 server and 2 embeds and find me printing, and then we talk about a few other things and maybe train. I think there's probably a million, a lot of you on the phone, maybe all of you, who have done a trial that has equated to much, much more than that. Okay. And in order for us to bring value, more value, not only to you, but to that end user inside of these enterprise class customers, it's really important that we shift our mind to thinking about, if you need a trial, this is easy and cheap. Here are the restraints. If you need a full-blown POC to really understand exactly how this software will improve productivity, integrate with your backend systems, we may need to shift our thinking to a POC. So we're going to share this deck out so you can have all this in writing, but I just wanted to set the stage that we're going to start to be a little bit more careful on what all is included in these 2 items. Okay. Chris, is there anything you want to add? Because I know you're in the world of trials all day long, about what you see on a day-to-day.
Yep. So free trials are just exactly what you stated, right? They're for a customer to say, hey, yeah, I like the sound of PaperCut. PaperCut's a really good product. But just to get over that hump, we need to get PaperCut in their environment to say, hey, let me just show it to you really quick. And, that gets them over that hump to kind of get them, so to speak, to sign the paper. And then it turns over to the PSD side or the post-sale side to where they'll actually do the full production install.
Right. So if we go to this next diagram somewhere, I think we can kind of call out now. A lot of what we just talked about is here in this diagram. But what I would just want to pause here because there's a couple key differences when we move to the POC, paid POC, that you guys will notice. Trial request comes in, SA is engaged. We do the trial install. It's then approved by the customer. Oh, this works great. Then the PO comes through, and then it passes to the post side of our house, like the post sales team inside of ACDI. And so, as I mentioned, we have experienced internal challenges of making sure that all of the information, the data collected, the end user knowledge about that customer transfers from our pre-team to our post team. And we know that is an internal challenge for us. But then also, we're not charging for those services on the front end. So then it becomes sort of a challenge about how we charge for it on the back end. So again, bridging the gap is critical. So we'll go ahead on to the paid POC concept. So here is where we are sort of launching this paid POC, proof of concept. So there's going to be a pre-sales. We're creating 2 tiers. One is under 500 devices and one is greater than 500 devices. The reason why we did 2 different tiers is we worked really closely with Chris Robertson, who's not on the phone right now, but a lot of you probably know. He is the lead for our solutions architect team, and we evaluated the hours and engagement done on some of these more complex, what used to be trials. And we found out a good sort of level set 2 tiers that we could take to the field. And so we really did take the time to really understand what that looks like. So essentially, if you look to have a paid POC, you're committing to a pre-sales engagement of one of these line items. Inside of that engagement there's a reason why you're paying for it. And you're going to see that here in just a second. But again, we're going to bring the SA and the project coordinator into this project consistently from start to finish. So again, that seamless pass from pre to post is going to be critical. Also, we're looking for, from a deliverable standpoint, we're able to offer things like what you see on the right-hand side of the screen. These are the type of things that our engineers right now are doing for free, right? And those of you who sell other software in your portfolio probably know that that's kind of crazy. Typically, people pay for that. And in an enterprise class customer, they're happy to pay for a proof of concept because of what we talked about in the beginning. It is so mission critical that they're happy to pay for it. and make sure that it's going to work and benefit their organization, right? Some of the deliverables is, like I said, is workflow design. Also, huge differentiator, guys, is that we are now going to do a full-blown statement of work on the front end of the deal. So a lot of you, that's been a challenge. I know I've dealt with some of our big OEM partners who have like, what do you mean you do the statement of work after the purchase order? That doesn't make any sense. Well, when it's a real simplistic install of paper cut, that may make sense again because MF can be super easy to install. But when these more complex situations where we're really committing to very specific workflows or integrations, it's critical to have that statement of work on the front end. We're also going to allow for a letter of intent to be signed. Two different ways we can look at that, and we're happy to be flexible on this process. But one is to make sure we have the commitment that if we launch a POC, that they're willing to pay for that in the end. Or even a step further, if we meet your very specific buying criteria and integration needs, will you acquire the entire software? So it's almost like a commitment to the entire quote, not just the trial or POC, I should say. So again, your RSM is going to go into detail of this, but again, we're just here to float the concept. So as you can see, the diagram is a little bit more complex. There may be a couple more steps, but that's because we're bringing in more people. So once the POC is approved, that third icon is probably the most important, is the opportunity to bring the pre-team, which is our solutions architect. We'll bring in our project coordinator, and we also have 2 dedicated PSEs or post-services engineers who will be assisting in the enterprise space or for the concierge services. And so this team is all very much up to speed in the change of this workflow. So the three of those groups will come together with the partner and the end user to discuss the workflow that they are looking to achieve. What is the end goal? So they don't really go through a punch list of what is paper cut, but it's more, why are you buying this? What are you looking to do for your organization? And sort of doing a reverse design to make sure that, again, they've thought through all the things that they can do to benefit the customer, even things that the customer may not have initially thought of. Okay, you're here for find me, Mr. Customer, but based on the fact that you have 5,000 single function printers, have you considered print deploy, right? And do we need to add the print enablement pack? And here's the benefit that that would bring to the table. So there's also an opportunity for upselling, right? Is there anything else inside of ACDI's portfolio or the partner's portfolio that we may want to think about? Once you've had that initial discussion, we then will move on to the workflow design, where the solutions architect will design exactly what the sort of perfect infrastructure looks like. They'll write the statement of work, as we mentioned, and the LOI. All of this will then be approved by the partner and the end user, and we'll get to work. The POC will be put installed, then we'll do a train the trainer. We'll actually do a formal pilot testing, and then the PO comes in, and then we pass it back, and this will sort of be where pre disengages, and then our PSD division, our post team, we'll just tie up any loose ends. If there's any other embeds that need to be pushed out, any scanning profiles, anything along those lines. But again, that team will consistently be involved from the beginning. Okay. Do we have any questions, Summer? I can't see chat right now. Good.
I'm not seeing any so far on my end.
Cool. Okay.
Perfect. So now we are going to talk about understanding high availability. So this is the techie section. Chris, did you have a question? Or are you just so excited you can't keep your hands down? Awesome. Love to hear it.
Ralph, you going to start leading on this, or you want me to do it?
Could just go ahead, jump right in, Chris.
Absolutely. You want me to start with it? Perfect. So we just talked about the enterprise space, and we talked about everything, our concierge services and the more complex installs, right? So we're going to start talking about a little bit about high availability. Where does it fit inside of these enterprise installs and the architecture for their environments, right? So pretty much high availability, whenever we talk about it, it's not just a single term that describes one action, right? So high availability can be a lot of different things inside of an enterprise architecture. So we're going to let Ralph talk a little bit about where, or what is high availability, where does it fit in our architecture, how ACDI can help, and pretty much everything to do with it.
Yeah. And thank you for that intro, Chris. And when we're talking about high availability, basically what we're ensuring is that your customer's network, whatever services they're offering to their end users, that they have this available to them at all times. There's actually an industry standard that's not really talked about that much, like in the business side of things, but when we're looking at things operationally, it's very important. And a lot of times it's referred to as the 5 9s. So if you have never heard of that concept before, what the 5 9s is that your system or product has to be available 99.999% of the year, which means you are only allowed about 5 minutes and 15 seconds worth of downtime. So when you're implementing this, very crucial.
So Ralph, who would benefit from high availability? What do we need high availability at?
Okay. Well, a lot of times it really is the IT team that is going to be responsible to deliver this high availability. There is a lot of pressure on them when it comes to implementing this because sometimes, their performance is impacted by meeting these requirements. Their bonuses or their pay sometimes is affected by this, even their employment. So it's really important, but not just the IT team that manages this really impacts the end users as well, because if they have a crucial thing that they're doing to complete their work, if they don't have that solution, that application, then that could really impact how they're servicing their customers. So it really helps out everybody in the organization.
Go ahead and go to the next slide.
Oh, and yeah, one thing that I did want to touch on, thank you for the reminder. There is a difference between resiliency and redundancy. So one of the things that when we're talking about high availability, what is the difference? Now, there are some solutions that make your environment less vulnerable. So what do I mean by that? Maybe if there is a certain outage or something like that, it doesn't affect all locations. It's only going to affect some. But when we're talking about redundancy, what we're saying is that there will be little to no impact to your end users when there is an issue that occurs. So when we're looking at these high availability solutions, even though resiliency is part of it, what we're really focusing on is redundancy at this point.
Nice. So whenever we talk about all these solutions, what does that mean? What do we have available for the end users whenever it comes to high availability?
Okay, well, we have a slew of solutions. We have some older solutions, for example, like clustering, snapshots, and checkpoints, which it has been an industry standard for years. Now, there's also other things that we can do like backup machines, and if we're using products like PaperCut, they even have resiliency built into their solutions like site servers, which is something that we've commonly been implementing for years. But here recently, we have application level load balancing when it comes to our most popular solution, PaperCut, which we've been helping, a variety of customers implement in their environments.
So that's a new thing, application level load balancing. Let's talk a little bit more about that.
Okay, so in order to make application server failover or application level load balancing work, you need a few things. So your version of PaperCut needs to be in version 20 or higher. You have to have a layer 4 compatible network load balancer. You have to have 2 or more servers, and the good thing here is not dependent on an operating system. So if you want to do it with Windows, you want to do it with Linux, Macintosh, you can do it with whatever, as long as you have multiple servers. We also have to have highly available external databases. We have to have persistent network drives. All of the print queues and your mobility print servers also have to be separate from your application server. So there are a multitude of things to consider when making this application server failover on the application level work.
So I see a lot of technical difficulty or technical requirements here. So
Yes.
Let's look and see what's a layer 4 capable network load balancer.
So when we're looking at load balancers, basically what that is a piece of hardware or software that basically helps direct and even out traffic throughout your network. So think about it when you're driving through the roads, right? If everybody's going through the same lane, you're more than likely going to have a traffic jam. Load balancer kind of alleviates that in the network sense, where it kind of is directing traffic in the right place. Now, there's two layers of the networking in which load balancers work. There's layer 4 and layer 7. And let's just put it to keep it simple. Layer 4 is the simplest way to load balance traffic.
Gotcha.
And also on top of that, one thing that I do want to mention before I forget, direct server return is important to set up on your servers when you are setting up a layer 4 capable load balancer. So got to keep that in mind as well.
So that's another consideration that we should take into place whenever we're doing
Yes.
application level failover.
Definitely. Direct server return is definitely another gotcha. So what does that mean? So when you are directing traffic, right? And so what you're basically doing for the workstations or the clients, right? And the servers, you're kind of putting a middleman right there with the load balancer. So what happens when the server and the client are talking to each other, there's an intermediary. But what you really want to happen in that case is that even though the clients and the workstations are talking to the load balancer to talk to the server, you want the server to be able to reply directly back to the client, right? So in order to do this, there are different settings that you have to do on the network adapters on those servers. You have to change some registry keys. So there are a lot of things to consider when you are setting up high availability.
Exactly. So one thing to remember, Rob's talked about a lot of stuff here, and a lot of this stuff's very technical. And while we don't remember everyone to remember all of this stuff, what you need to remember is ACDI is here to help. We have experts on the backside, right? We can absolutely help set this up, right? So, Ralph, you want to talk about this last side a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. So right now, I probably threw a whole bunch of technical mumbo jumbo or jargon at some people that might not be so technical. Maybe they're more worried about the architecture or just getting the deal done, right? But it's important for all of us to kind of understand those key concepts when we're looking at high availability, because that is what's going to show your professionalism. That's what's going to really set you apart from the other competition when you're like, oh, yes, you have a load balancer, you have, an IT team, and this solution's not for everybody. So when you know some of the certain key concepts, you could really identify who the solution really belongs to. And if you're not the expert, guess what? ACDI has helped implement this in a whole bunch of spots. Maggie, do I have time to share one quick little story?
You sure do.
All right, awesome. Okay, so Chris, I don't know if you remember this, but Chris Robertson called me a little while ago, and we had an international furniture retail store, right? So they had, a whole chain. They had a bunch of stores in the U.S. and in South America, and they wanted to implement high availability on their pay-per-cut solution on an Azure server. And their IT team tried to get it done, couldn't quite take it across the finish line. They brought in their dealer, and their dealer brought in us. And when we all worked together and brought our knowledge and expertise together, we were able to get it from the goal line to an actual touchdown, to an actual successful implementation of this application server failover. So, it might be a tough thing, but it's completely doable. And not only if we get this done for our customers, not only are they going to be happy, we're going to look like heroes on their IT teams eyes. So definitely was a great experience to work with Chris and that customer to get it done.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
One thing, sorry. One thing to remember.
Go ahead.
Is don't quiver and start running away whenever you hear these technical terms. Remember to engage your ACDI sales team, engage the SAs, solutions architects, right? Engage anybody, right? We're all here to help you. We're here to help you get, paper cut and whatever we can do as far as our professional services, get you through to that goal line as Ralph just talked about. We want to be a helping hand to you all the way to the finish line.
And then anything related to today that you guys, I know we're kind of on a shorter side of the webinar, which is good for everybody, but There's a lot of follow-up documentation that's been created related to concierge. So again, if this is something that you think you guys can sell services wise and want to do a deep dive of it, please reach out to your RSM. But we are creating sample letter of intent, sample statement of works. We've got the network diagrams ready to go that you can take out to the end user and actually show the type of things that will be included in these POCs. So we do have deliverables for you guys to take to market. So please feel free to follow up. It doesn't look like we have any questions in the chat. I answered a couple while you guys were talking.
Perfect. I was about to say, Maggie, I did have one come in to me, but they were asking about more resources and where they can go for more information. So I will tell you our website, we do have a print management for large enterprises space on there. And so you can go to our website to look for that. We have some good resources on there as well as some other, testimonials from some businesses.
Yep. And for the concierge offering, we are developing and probably ready to go April 1, like a sort of a one-sheeter PDF from marketing that'll highlight the concept. So you could take like a sell sheet that your reps could take out to the field to talk about why these POCs are elevated and what it means for the end user. So we're working through some of that.
Perfect. Well, we will stick around for anyone that has any more questions for a little bit. That way we can see them come through. But thank you all so much for joining. And if you don't mind, feel free to follow us on all of our social medias. We do Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, all of the things. And we are also trying to get to 1,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel as well. I believe we're about 40 or 50 subscribers away. So that's where we post all of our webinars on there after the recordings if you do happen to miss them. Or if you know any of your coworkers that missed the webinar and want to watch it, they can find it on there. And we usually get those posted 1 or 2 days after, so be on the lookout for that. And then, like Maggie said, we'll also be sending this deck out as well. So we'll send that in our follow-up email to everyone that attended and also didn't attend the webinar so they can look at those resources as well. Let me see here. I don't think we have any questions that I'm seeing. Are you guys all good?
Yeah, I've been answering some privately, but yeah, I think we're good to go.
Me too. Yep.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for joining. And Chris, Ross, and Maggie, thank you. It was awesome.
Thanks for setting it up,
Sure.
Summer. Bye, guys.
Have a good one.
Awesome. Bye, guys. Have a great rest of your week.